So over this past year, the R6 Siege lore community has become even bigger. We have so many new people coming to the channel specifically for that content, and as well as this, we get a lot of comments of people giving their opinion and some of their theories. And I was reading the comments the other day, and that is when I seen this comment by Amy K27, and they said, "My theory is that Ashe will come out of her coma unable to operate anymore, and will take over as the new 6. If you are not aware, at the very beginning of year 8, Ashe alongside Thermite, Zofia, Sledge, and Kavera were all caught in an explosion that was caused by Deimos. Now, all 5 of these operators were injured in this blast, however, Ashe got it the worst, and this resulted her being put into a coma. And she has been in a coma for the entirety of the lore for year 8. She doesn't even know Harry's dead yet. Brava, Fenrir, Ram, and Tuberal have all joined whilst Ashe has been under. And at the current point of recording, she is still in a coma. And I thought this little theory by Amy was quite interesting. It is likely that Ashe will come out of her coma at some point. She's too big of a character in the lore for them just to leave in a coma. They could do that, however, I don't think they will. Now, considering how critical of a coma she is in, when and if she does wake, it is pretty unlikely that she will go back to frontline service. I guess it's not 100% impossible, however, the likelihood is that Ashe will probably have to medically retire because of this. And we have this theory by Amy that they believe that Ashe will become the next director. And when I read this, I honestly think that it's plausible. Ashe is one of the most important characters in the lore. She was pretty much the main operator who clashed heads with Nighthaven, specifically its leader, Kaze. And as well as this, she was always interacting with Harry, the previous director who was killed by Deimos, and clearly has a thing or two to say about how Rainbow should be ran and who they interact with. Ashe voiced her opinions way more than any other operator. So I do think Ashe could work well in the role of 6. A big question we need to ask is, does Rainbow need another director? Harry did build the groundworks for each of these squads to sort of lead themselves, with their squad leaders sort of acting as a director for each of those squads. However, they are still a unified team at the end of the day, and it still does feel like they need someone above them to sort of overlook each squad with just a bit more of an overall direction. And what better person to do that would be one of the operators themselves, who has shown time and time again that she will voice her opinion happily. She will go the extra length when she believes that something is wrong, and she will fight for what is right. Something I found very interesting when the squads were initially revealed is that Ashe wasn't one of the squad leaders. I think a lot of people were quite surprised that Ashe was just a redhammer operator and that Thermite was a leader. Not saying that Thermite was surprising, because he is a big player in the lore itself, and I think he does fit redhammer very well as the leader. But to me, it does feel like Ashe was sort of left out there, and it could simply be just to give the other operators a spotlight. Stop giving, Ashe everything. She's been multiple of the cinematics. It was time to let other operators shine as leaders like Hibana, Kavera, Doc. And I think that's all well. I love seeing all the different operators in the lore. I love every single operator in this game, and I love seeing especially some other ones get a promotion. But I'm not going to pretend like I wasn't surprised that Ashe wasn't one of them. So where else better to put her than at the director position? It does make a lot of sense to put her in that position as well. During the lore of Rainbow Six Siege, not talking before Siege, there has been 2 directors. We have Aurelia, who was the director who reactivated Rainbow itself, and then she got the position of Secretary of State and passed the position onto Harry, who was working underneath her at the time. Neither of those 2 directors were ex-military, especially not ex-Rainbow. Ashe becoming the next 6 would give Rainbow another experienced military leader like it used to have with Domingo Chavez and John Clark. Especially if they're going up against Deimos, who I personally believe is an ex-Rainbow director called James Wolfe. Again, total different story on its own. You've probably heard this before, I'm not going to go into the theory, but you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, check my video on it. But as much as I loved Harry, I definitely believe Ashe would be better suited for this threat than he was. Even just listening to the most recent audio recordings we can find on the map layer, I made a video about that as well, Harry even says that he doesn't think he's prepared for what's about to come. Not just him, but the entire team. Especially with Nighthaven's involvement in this entire situation seemingly still being a bit unknown if they will get involved. Rainbow are going to need that strong director to push them through this battle. I mean, we do know that Ashe has one of the biggest conflicts with Callie, the leader of Nighthaven. It'd be pretty poetic for her to then become the leader of Rainbow, and Ashe and Callie putting aside their differences and the two sides working together again. I feel like there's just a lot of story significance for putting Ashe in a coma, other than just omitting her for the lore for a year for no reason. I definitely do think that Ashe, although still alive in a coma, I think her days as a soldier may be over, and it seems like grounding her a bit and putting her in this higher up role is much more fitting, and it's also just very good character development for Ashe. Because I will say, and not just because it's the topic of this video, if you were to ask me, out of all the operators in this current Rainbow roster, which one is best suited to be the next director of the team, I would have said Ashe. Looking back at her entire lore through Rainbow Six Siege as it's progressed, starting as just one of the 4 FBI SWAT operators, to becoming the lead critic of Nighthaven joining Rainbow, someone who was always expressing their opinions to Harry, and it seemed like Harry really did value her, then I think this is a great way for her story to go. It is most likely that we will get another director for Rainbow at some point. This year we haven't had one. I think the focus has definitely been on the squad leaders leading their own squads, but I think that will probably start to change soon. Having a director for Rainbow is a key part of its identity. Heck, that is what the 6 in the name means. And who better to take that position next than a Rainbow operator who was injured in the service fighting the current main antagonist who can no longer operate and now has to take on the director position. The only other operator you can probably say would be a good suit for director right now is Sam, but I just can't see them making Sam Fisher the director of Rainbow, because putting Sam Fisher into Rainbow Six Siege, especially making him a major part of the lore, you know, he does play a big part in it. I think that's big enough on his own. I can't see them going further in making him the leader. I definitely do think they'll focus on a core Rainbow operator for that, because technically Sam, yes, he is a Rainbow operator now, but he can only be the leader of so much. And a big question is, will we see Ashe come out of her coma soon? We know the next major piece of lore is the big Year 9 cinematic. We do know that Deimos is attacking Emerald Plains, which is a dark site used by the overheads at Rainbow. So we are going to be getting a look at the political side of Rainbow, the government side of it, the funding side of it. We're going to be getting a little glimpse of that very soon. And I can imagine that there'll be some people trying their hand of getting that director spot. A lot of politicians will probably want to be the next 6. So Ashe awaking from her coma around this time could lead to some quite interesting story developments, and she'd sort of contest that role of these other people who want to be the next director. It'd be nice if we could maybe hear like an audio recording of Harry basically saying how if he was to ever need to be succeeded in this position for whatever reason, then this is who he would recommend. The same way Aurelia recommended Harry, Harry could recommend Ashe. This isn't really a theory I thought about until I saw this comment, but the more I think about it, the more I think this is a very probable way Ashe's story could go. I do think it's hard to believe after all this stuff she's been through that she will just go straight into going back into the action again or anytime soon. It could also show that Deimos injuring Ashe in this way in turn could lead to his downfall, as it's put her in a higher position, and this could lead to Nighthaven returning and Deimos being stopped. But yeah, I do think that is a really nice theory. I want to ask you the question, what operator other than Ashe would be a good replacement for 6? I genuinely do think Ashe is the best candidate, but I also think that Kaze could do very good in the role as well. However, I feel like that is a role he would turn down, and having someone younger, such as Ashe, would be the best option. So yes, be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this theory what was proposed that when Ashe comes out of her coma, instead of being deployed as an operator once more, she will have to medically retire because of this, and potentially become the next director, known as 6. I guess we'll find out if this theory comes true or not whenever Ashe wakes, and I'm really interested to see where they go with it. So yeah, have an incredible rest of your day. I love you all, stay safe, and have a good one.